Welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We'll give everyone a
Boy.
couple minutes to join here before we get started. So, everyone, want you guys pop in the chat. Let us know where you're calling in from. The chair returns. That's right, Ned. Only special occasions. Michael, welcome. Aaron, NYC. Never heard of it. Yeah. Western North Carolina, Denver. Nice. Look at this group we got today. Agents all over the world, huh? Wow. France, somebody's showing off here, David. All right. Newcastle, welcome Toon Army. Yep. Some of us are familiar. Shout out Alan Shearer. That's awesome. Baltimore, Bethesda, P-Town. Is that there's a few different P-Towns I'm aware of. I think you're talking about Pittsburgh, maybe? Chris? Oh,
Peoria.
Peoria. Oh, Illinois. Duh. Duh. Hey, at least I get points for knowing what state that's in, right? I have a cousin there. No, I thought Pittsburgh too, Aaron. All right. See? Having a fun game already. We probably just could have deployed an agent to figure out in advance where everybody was calling in from and then just show you the output. But we'll do the human game to get started. And greetings, everyone. Appreciate you guys for being on time. We'll give it one more minute. Excited to introduce you to some of the founding team here at Aomni. Josh Gillespie, I'm our head of growth. Sawyer Middeleer is our chief of staff. And David Zhang is our CEO. Nice.
Good to meet everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hi, hi.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah. Brett, welcome. C-Rod, welcome. Good to see you. Brian, good to see you. Florida. Look at all the Floridians. Nice. Awesome, guys. Steve, Denver. Peru, that's cool. Nantucket. Must be nice. Must be nice.
Very jealous.
All right. Cole, welcome. ATL. This is my favorite part of the show. All right, guys, we'll get it going here in a second. Just a brief intro. I know we're all here to talk AI agents. If you've been on LinkedIn, right, at all the past 6 to 12 months, you may have heard about agents. What the heck is it? What do we do with them? Where do we get started? We just wanted to bring a little bit of clarity because, in our opinions, there's a lot of noise about how and when to deploy automation, right, into our go-to market workflows, whether we are thinking about maybe layering it on top of our existing tech stack. Maybe we're thinking about it like Aomni does as foundational, and how do we build more end-to-end workflows to move the right revenue org into a more qualitative state, right? I've been in sales for 20 years. We've all been victim to the volume-based sales motions, right? In some sense, there's always volume that has to be accounted for in order to grow our businesses of qualified leads and opportunities and deals. But you may have noticed it's getting a little bit trickier and harder, right, in the world, regardless of what outbound channel you leverage, be it email, be it cold calling or phone, be it LinkedIn messaging. The efficacy of our traditional campaigns, which are used to saturate, right, our addressable market, aren't working so well. So how can we leverage AI to do a better job, to help us focus, right, to help us convert at a higher degree without wasting our precious human hours, of which we only have so many? What types of workflows and tasks can we set agents on to benefit us, right, as humans still in the end? So if you have any ideas of potential workflows, or if you're experimenting already, we want to engage you guys. We have just as much to learn from you all, probably, as you do from us. So jump in the chat. Tell us, like, have you already deployed an agent? Have you put anything into production? If so, where did you start? How are you thinking about this? And it's okay if not. Hopefully by the end, right, of this webinar, we'll give you guys some great ideas and also a meeting link that you can use to talk to us more. So without further ado, Sawyer, you mind getting us kicked off here?
Yeah, for sure. So AI agents, it's a big topic, and I feel like it's sort of like the word of 2025, at least when it comes to like AI and automation. And I think for a lot of people here, and I'm definitely in this camp, like the first time that I encountered AI agents and used them myself, uh, in work at Aomni, separate from Aomni, was tools like Claygent, tools like N8N agents, these things that we would call agents, where you would kind of attach some tools. You'd say, okay, this agent, you can look at my calendar and you can send an email, and you'd sort of hook this thing up. And with Claygent, you'd say, go to this company's website and read their blog and see if they've published something about, I don't know, RAG implementations or whatever it is, SOC 2, right? And this is what we thought agents could be for about a year. Um, but it's such a limiting way actually of understanding what agents are capable of and how to actually use advanced AI systems within your workflow, right? If you just hand an AI tool your email and your calendar, tell it to go research some stuff, all you've got is like an email writer, LLM. That's not truly an agent. When we think of a system, and there are all sorts of different definitions for what an agent is, but at its heart, it's an AI system that you can give an objective to, you give it some parameters, some tools, some data to access, some rules about what it can and cannot do, and it should be able to go and execute that for you. And the agents that really just get to do one thing are so limiting. And what we've found, and this is some really interesting data that's come through from, I think it was Salesforce, State of Sales, or LinkedIn, or one of those, where they do this research study every year, right? And what's come out recently are these stats that say something like 85% of sales go-to-market organizations covering marketing and sales and CS nowadays are using AI at work, which is huge, right? I mean, it's we go from 0 3 years ago now to like nearly everyone. But the interesting thing actually is we're still spending 75% of our day as, and I say us, but like really as ICs, right? As sort of a sales rep, a marketing manager, a CS manager. We're spending 70% of our day still on our non-core work. So if you're a seller, it's not sales. If you're a marketer, it's not marketing. It's like updating the CRM, it's copying data, it's all of that. And clearly the AI agents that were sort of promised as being these like automation systems that could do everything aren't delivering, because they live in these little silos, right? They're like, you're the research agent, you're the email writing agent, and that kind of isn't what it's all about. And so what I want to talk through is, how do you actually build an agent that's going to bring that efficiency, that's going to take that 70% of your day that's like research and email writing and like, you know, CRM management, and can make that like 10% and give you all this other time back for meetings and strategy and creativity and things that are actually valuable for you. Those are not AI birds. Those are birds that are right over my shoulder, Britt. Sorry about that. So the where was I? Yeah, so I'm going to jump into it, but really the point that I want to get us to is 80% of building an AI agent actually comes before you ever put keys to keyboard to write a prompt or write code that will do anything like that, right? Before you ever open up Claygent, before you ever open up Aomni, N8N, there's a lot of work that you have to do to understand where is the opportunity for efficiency, and how can I actually use automation intelligently to execute real business strategies that are going to be from end to end and encapsulate a lot of valuable work that you know I can then kind of leverage for myself. Um, so without any more rambling there, what I want to do first of all is show you. Okay, so like I've talked kind of theoretically, but what does this actually look like, right? And what I'm going to jump into is, so we have a few different ways that we do this at Aomni, right? And Aomni, we partner with organizations to bring AI agents in, simplify really expensive, complex workflows, consolidate a lot of like workflows and tech stack stuff that's just kind of messy and sprawling and contributes to this 70% of time that folks are spending on admin work and non-sales and non-marketing. And so one of the examples here that you're looking at is this diagram. I'll put in the slideshow mode. This diagram of like a workflow that we found to be really effective, where AI agents are running the show here. So I'll just kind of orient you real quick. What AI agents are doing here is kind of everything in blue, right? So we start off, we have our CRM. And think of this as like an account-based sales or an account-based marketing kind of workflow, where what I'm trying to do is I have a list of accounts in my CRM. I've got some basic data, company name, and maybe some notes from past engagement. And what I want to do is prioritize them so that my sellers are working on the highest priority accounts every time. They're not guessing. They're not trying just to, hope that one of their emails lands. They want to make sure that of their 50 named accounts, they know the 10 that they should be talking to right now. So the way that this will work is, and this blue here is all AI. We're starting off by taking this list of companies. We're doing deep research on all of them. So this is that kind of Clagent-esque research component, if you're familiar with that. But we go a lot deeper, where we can pull in with one query, social media, M&A activity, recent fundraising. We can pull their 10K if it's a public company, hiring information, all of that, right? But it's not just these like generic data points that you could find in a database. Really, the key to leveraging these AI systems that are so good at dealing with massive amounts of data and finding like needles in the haystack is kind of understanding that ideal buyer journey and figuring out, in a perfect world, when a prospect is coming to me and we're really able to engage with them, they see the value in us immediately. What has to happen for that to be true? What signals, what data can I find anywhere on the internet that will highlight that opportunity for me? And that's what we're looking for here with the deep research, right? And if you just jump into the research, you try to just program this away straight off, you'll miss those opportunities for really pulling out what are those key data points that I need to know to make my prospecting and my account prioritization as effective as possible. So that's the first step here. And this workflow has many steps, as you can see, right? The second one is, okay, I'm going from research, then I need to go to analysis. And that means synthesizing a ton of data. So this is very different from actually having a person run this workflow, where before, if you're starting with like human research, right? Or you're starting with like a clay table or an NADN workflow, maybe you wind up with 3 sources that you can then kind of read through as a human. When you do deep research, what you actually have is 10, 20, 30 or more sources that are all need to be synthesized, in this case, not by a human, but by an AI system that can take all that data and use it effectively. So that's happening here in the strategy. So we take the data, we pull out the diamonds from the rough there. Then next step, process automation, right? So this is your basic, like, okay, I'm coming out of like deep thinking AI mode, and I'm going into, all right, I need to enrich a contact. I need to update my CRM. I need to notify a user that something's happened so that they can take action. This is all something that an agent should be responsible for. Then from there, goes to notification, and then back to the CRM as the source of truth. So it's this cycle that you'll see kind of repeats periodically, right? And this end-to-end is, not only is it a complex workflow where by automating it, we are taking away hours of admin kind of tedious research work from any sort of individual contributor who has to run this, but we're also enabling them to work more effectively in a way that you just could not do if you didn't have an agent running the show. I know there's a lot of commentary in the chat. David, Josh, any interesting questions come up so far, or anything that I should touch on here?
You can keep going.
All right, cool.
Yeah, but Blake mentioned some interesting use cases around just deep research for getting intents and revenue and contact data. Yeah. But we could save time to just build that agent later on.
Yeah, sounds good. So I've got a few of these, but the last one that I want to touch on here is this other one where in this case it's a relatively simple workflow, right? So the last one was a complex workflow, a lot of steps. This one doesn't have so many steps. It's just a simple, hey, I want to fill out an RFP or an RFI. This is a pretty common sales thing, sales engineering. If you do consulting, I'm sure you've encountered this one a lot.
Wait, I love
where you
filling out the RFP. Sawyer, you're trying to take that off my
oh,
plate?
same.
What? That's my
It's the
favorite
only thing.
task of all time. Yeah.
Filling RFPs is the only thing I like more than filling security questionnaires. It's
All
just the
right, fair
best day
enough.
ever.
Yeah.
But the process here, right? It's tedious and it limits what you do. If you have to fill out an RFP manually, you maybe only do it for the top fit RFPs. What if I told you that you could actually fill out an RFP in about 20 minutes, right? Wouldn't that change how you sell, how you target accounts, how you win opportunities? And so here it's a simple process, but it actually really transforms how a go-to-market team thinks about their addressable market and attacking that addressable market. And the agent architecture here, it's very different. This isn't an agent that's doing 20 different things in succession, trying to figure out the best way of getting the right data. In this case, it's an AI that only has to do a couple things. It takes an RFI or an RFP, it reads it, understands, all right, what are the questions? What's the context? What are we trying to sell to them? Then it will just answer the questions and give you back the filled out RFP. Super simple. But the nuance here and the important thing to really invest that time in is when a human fills out an RFP, right? It's a team effort. You have a sales engineer, you've got a lawyer, you've got like an account exec, you've got a bunch of people here, maybe a product or engineering person who has to bring in their own specialized expertise. That's a lot of people, a lot of hours, a lot of like internal institutional knowledge that actually has to be transferred and synthesized and put in this document. Well, that's what an AI should be able to do if it has the right knowledge base. And this is the second piece of AI that agents need. It's, of course, you need to map the process. You need to understand, what am I trying to achieve through automation in order to automate something meaningful. But the second piece is the context is everything. AI systems, the more complex they are, if they don't have the right context to make the right decisions, they just break. They don't do anything. This is how you get crappy answers that a human has to go through and fix every single one, right? But if you're able to convey that institutional knowledge that all of these folks have into the agent, it can operate much more effectively. And so that's things like, solution description, case studies, all the security stuff. What's our capacity constraints? What are network requirements, hardware requirements, implementation details, all of this stuff, right? That should be digestible by an AI so that it can transfer it into a document like this. And so this is a really good example as well for us to show in context, actually, kind of how you might do this in real life, right? Because I think it's fine to look at diagrams and talk kind of about, oh, hey, we could do this, you could do that. This stuff's knowledge bases are important. What does this actually look like in practice? So I'm going to jump out of my view here and head into Aomni, where if you've been in one of our webinars before, you've seen us demonstrate the ability to create agents using natural language. And that's something that we can do a little bit later. But the piece of Aomni that a lot of people actually don't spend nearly as much time working on and understanding or appreciating is our knowledge base feature. So our knowledge base is what I was just showing you. It's how you translate your internal institutional knowledge, product understanding, security knowledge, all of this critical data that would go into, say, writing a great sales email, filling out an RFP, recommending a strategy. All of these different components of sales require a lot of internal knowledge. So what you'll see here is this is just our interface for how to configure the knowledge base for our own solution, Aomni. And you can see that we have knowledge that lives in different categories. It's what are value propositions? And each of these categories have like subcategories or data points that we associate with them, right? So we've got value propositions, which has a name, it's got benefits, it has messaging associated with it. The value proposition has a target audience, right? It has differentiators, it has pain points that it addresses. All of those are captured in here. Same thing for personas, for customer stories, right? They each have their own kind of way of categorizing and organizing information so that it's usable by the AI system. However, this can never be one size fits all, right? And this is where so much of the work comes in, as when we work with our clients to say, we're going to build an AI agent that will automate this critical workflow, let's say RFI, RFP filling. It really cannot be, oh yeah, we'll just sort of take the same thing that we've done with everyone else and give it to you and that should work fine, because that just isn't true. Your solution's unique, your customers are unique. And so what we're going to do here is allow you to create custom knowledge bases where you might say, actually, I'm gonna show you here. So for personas, right? Let's say your personas, you really want to target specific titles. I might say, I can add, titles for, let's say, yeah, titles and seniority, right? So I might say, I only want to talk to C-suite, go to market, focus, right? And what I'm basically doing here is, as I'm curating this knowledge base, it's like I'm kind of like a teacher or like a librarian or something. I'm sort of saying, hey, AI, this is how I need you to understand the solution that we're selling, or it might be the product that we're bringing to market, and how we map ourselves against competitors. So this knowledge base here becomes very critical for all of that to happen. And there's a lot of thought and kind of work that goes into extracting the knowledge from a person and putting it in the system. So yeah, I'll leave this here. Would love any questions. I saw a lot of stuff in the chat. And otherwise, I think it would be great for us to kind of pass this on to, let's actually build, one of these in really live. David can lead us through that, and we'd love ideas from the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Sawyer. And yeah, shout out, I think it was Aomni who built an agent while you were on your slide one. So nice work, Aomni.
Yeah, good
I
job.
love,
Yeah.
I love it. Looks like a very
I'm just
custom signal too. Oh, go ahead, Dev.
I'm just reading through the chat here. Sorry. So let's see. Yeah, so the knowledge graph that Sawyer showed is super important, right? It's I sent the chat that I sent the latest message around hallucination that Matt asked. That's actually one of the reasons why we spent so much time tuning this knowledge graph, right? Because so the two big kind of secret to how you make a really high functioning, reliable agent that can run in production, right? The two big secret is, one is you need to have the right context, right? And we can't emphasize this enough. Like, everything goes back to having the best, most relevant, most accurate context possible. And that's why we actually spend so much time when we work with our customers. Actually, most of the time that we spend working with our customers about figuring out what kind of knowledge graph best works for them, right? It's all about training the model, make sure the model remembers the right pieces of knowledge, right? So like, think about knowledge graph as you basically tell the model what to prioritize when you memorize this type of data, right? It's like, if you train a new SDR, if you train a new intern, right? You could give the intern a ton of content to read, but as a manager, you also want to tell your employee, okay, you should focus a lot on XYZ, right? Like, if I'm training SDR, I want the SDR to really understand the value proposition of my product, what our ICPs are, what the personas are, right? Because that's really important for the SDR to do their job. If I'm training SE, right, I really want the SE to understand, okay, what are the technical specifications, right? What are the cloud storage requirements? What kind of security metrics do we hit, right? And so that's a very, very different type of data that the SE needs to really memorize and understand really well. So that's why we spend so much time on this knowledge graph stuff. Like, honestly, that's one of the reasons why our agent just doesn't hallucinate, right? The hallucination rate is pretty close to zero at this point, because we spend so much time pre-processing the data. We're not just dumping like 100 websites into the AI, just asking the AI to figure it out. We're kind of doing this knowledge synthesis, right, with all the raw data to turn into actually something useful, which is this knowledge graph, and then the AI can use, to do its stuff. So that's how we prevent hallucinations.
Yeah, and actually, I just want to jump in.
And just make it a lot smarter. Okay.
Yeah, and well, Matthew had an interesting few questions here at the end, talking about kind of how do you handle multiple organizations using different agents? What about if you have like hallucinated information, correct versus incorrect information, overlaps? this is why, and the point that I want to leave everyone with and make sure that we're all sort of on board with is, sorry, that we're all sort of on board with is that AI agents, and this is the way that this technology is going, and it's no surprise. It's not just a technology product that you use in isolation. It's a people, process, and technology problem that has to be addressed. So when you're thinking about all these questions organizationally using AI, you can't just say, how do I make the AI do what I want it to do? It's how do I architect a system of people and talent and organizational strategy along with process delivering value to our customers and stakeholders, and then how do we use the AI to support that, right? So it's the specific answers are going to be personalized to your organization. There's no one answer, right? But you have to just view it as this whole system that works together.
Yeah. Any other? I haven't been found in the chat. Any other questions that we should?
Aaron, come off mute. You had a
we can
question, so
answer.
I'm not sure what you mean. I think you said, is that based on context you give them?
No,
the
it's
grading
more so
system?
of an answer. Wait, can you
Oh.
hear me?
Yeah,
no,
we can
it
hear
was
you.
more so of the answer for, I think, or you guys were talking about like if there was going to be overlap in the right or wrong answers of whatever the AI agent like kind of grades. But I'm sure that you can base those answers or the right and wrong answers with the context you give, one, of your company, but then secondly, the context of what makes it a right or grading system the way that it is.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking specifically about like the RFP use cases or just a general
I guess
comment?
in general as well.
Yeah, I mean, part of what we try to get everyone to do is in our knowledge base where you do the model training, it's basically always give as many past examples as possible, right? Like that's like a pretty easy one with RFP, which is just upload your past RFPs and leave some instructions for AI about like here's the example of the right answer and also here's the example of wrong answer. So kind of basically you want the context to have few shot examples plus just the raw knowledge of actually how to answer that question. So you actually want both. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, yeah, no, you did. Are we taking questions at the moment? I do have a question specifically about the account selection
Now we are.
portion.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
How do you grade that? Like, okay, maybe you might grade on our like closed one, but how do you build out a list from there? Is there a specific thing that you guys do differently, like let's say than a Clay or like other competitors that kind of just like take your closed one rates, people that you guys are most actively engaging in like deal cycles? Is there any more than that?
Honestly, that's something that we could. So there isn't a right answer for this because this is like the answer to this is like so specific to your company's sales process and to what product you're selling, right? Are you a consumer? Are you a business product, right? So I guess you're asking in the context of like account prioritization, like how do you determine if an account is high priority, right? Like is that sort of what you're getting at here? Got it.
Yes.
So so maybe what we could do here is let's do this. Let me share my screen. We actually have an account prioritization agent, and we could try to remix it to see like how we could tailor it more for your use case. This is actually an interesting one to talk about here. So let me just give me 1 sec. Let me figure out how to share my screen here. I need to pull up my Chrome window. So 1 sec. I have way too many tabs open. Sorry, guys. All right, there we go. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's talk specifically about account prioritization, right? Because this is a very common use case. And I think this is actually a good example of a use case that everybody should have their own criteria for how to prioritize an account, right? Because this is one of those ones where if you just take an off the shelf product to do some account prioritization, it's probably not going to be a perfect fit for you, right? So the ways that our platform works, so just kind of the short of it is, you guys kind of saw earlier you guys kind of saw earlier the knowledge tab, right, where you train the knowledge base. Let me go to the demo workspace here. So you saw earlier knowledge tab where we train the knowledge base. I'll show you kind of now just the general agent building tab, right? So this is kind of our general agent building experience. So this is kind of how you basically build your own agent with a text prompt. And before we build an agent, we can just kind of walk through some of the existing ones that we have, right? So here's some good example of actually agents that we use internally, right? So we have a bunch of agents that kind of either do some competitive positioning, right, between us versus Gone, or do some like European accessibility checks, or do some like product hunt outreach. So we have agents that we use internally that we built with our platform for basically every part of the sales workflow. Let's actually look specifically on the account prioritizer, which I think is here somewhere. We have too many.
There it is.
Here we go. Okay, so yeah, we probably need to organize this better. We have way too many agents now at this point. So here's our default account prioritizer, right? So the way our platform works is that every agent is built for you, very kind of in a very bespoke way. So our AI actually writes a bespoke agent for you. So what I mean by that is, you have this account prioritizer agent, but you could actually look under the hood and actually see how this account prioritizer work, because the way that we build this agent is our AI is actually writing the code for this agent for you, right? So Aomni, the platform, we're actually an AI coding platform. So we're actually an AI coding platform for building other agents for you. You can kind of think about it that way, right? And what this means is that you could get to build your own tailored agent with our platform, right? So if we look at the account prioritization agent here, we could just look at we don't need to look at the code, we could just look at the description here, right? So this is kind of our simple account prioritizer, right? Basically, what it does is it first identifies the company, it does some firmographic analysis, right? So look at the revenue number, look at the company size, look at some recent news, look at M&A activity, and then it creates sales strategies based on your solution that you're selling. So it's basically doing priority based on that. And then the way that it scores the account priority is it's a 1 to 10 score based on the ICP fit of whether this account actually needs my solution or not. Right. So here's kind of our default 6-step account prioritization process for how we do account prioritization internally. But I think what you mentioned earlier, right, is maybe we want to upgrade this, right? So maybe what we want to do is we want to add a step to actually include some past examples, right? So maybe there's some examples I have of good accounts, right? So the close won accounts, and maybe there's some examples I have of just bad accounts. So what I would do here is I would actually first train a knowledge base just with all the examples of my good accounts and my bad accounts, right? So what I would do, so again, kind of just going back to everything's about context all the time, right? So it's all about giving the right context to the AI. So let's actually just train a new knowledge base here. Let's just call this Aomni close won accounts. Right, and well, since this is kind of a pretty custom use case, let's actually create our own custom blueprint here. So we're going to name this blueprint name, which is customer name, right? So the name of the company we close. And then we could look at, like, let's say, I'm just going to keep this really simple, right? So like user story. So let's call this use case. How is this customer using our product, right? So that's one data point we want to add. We want to have multiple of this. Let's just add another data point, which is let's just call it contract value, annual contract value of this customer, right? So now we have this knowledge base here, right? Where we have this list, basically, customers. So let's actually just call this customers. Customers, the companies that we close. Sorry, then let's just add one more, which is name. There we go. That's actually better. So we have a list of close won customers, right? So here's our list of close won customers. So what I would do now is, I would export this data. Maybe it's in my CRM, maybe it's in my CDP somewhere, maybe just in Slack, wherever it is, right? I would export all this data. I will upload it to our model, right? So we don't need to do that now because I actually don't have the, this is kind of an ad hoc demo. So, but what I would do is I would upload all this stuff to our knowledge base, and then I would regenerate this knowledge base, which means that our AI is going to learn all these customer stories to extract. So now our AI memorized all of our closed line accounts, right? And I could do the same for, like, let's say Daffit accounts or whatever it is. So that's step one, is just really getting the best knowledge graph for AI possible. Okay, so now we can go back to our agents tab. So now that we have that closed line account, actually, let's go back to home tab here. Now I could go back to my account prioritizer, right? So this is kind of our original default account prioritizer. And I could say something like, let's remix it. So remix is basically kind of it's kind of a new concept for us, right? So you don't see this in any other product. It's basically telling our AI to rewrite its own code. So when you remix in agent, you're basically saying, hey, I want you to rewrite your own code because I want to upgrade you, right? So this is like you're upgrading the agent. So I want to say, I have a list of close one accounts in knowledge base. Includes that list of accounts as examples for when scoring ICP fits, right? So if similar use cases exist, the fit should be marked as high, right? It just kind of just as a very simple, I mean, you could really go crazy with these prompts. Like when we work with customers, we do like these mega prompts, but for the sake of demo, I'm going to keep it super simple, right? So, but again, it all just kind of goes back to when you're building agents, actually the hard part isn't the actual building part, right? Because we're having our AI write the agent for you. We basically made the building of the agent more or less like free, right? Because it's super, super easy. The hard part is actually just really understanding your problem and really just trying to kind of figure out how do you encode these like business processes into the agent, right? And you do that with prompts, you do that with knowledge bases. Okay, so let's look at this here. Okay, so we use a reasoning model, so you kind of see its reasoning traces here. Okay, so it's doing the closed one knowledge base. Okay, so it's already included closed one knowledge base in its inputs, as well as application prompts. So it's basically making this change right now for our agent, right? So it's basically, right now it's basically writing code, more or less. So just give it a little bit more time here. Well, while this is going, let's show some other, sorry, do you remember what are some other interesting agents we could show? What is the same?
You could show the ones that we use if you go to the Aomni official workspace. Then you can take a look at, we've got some that are running on triggers. Anything that's starred there, I think is pretty good.
Yeah, we got some. Yeah, so we have we've got a webinar promoter. So we're using our agent to promote our own webinar. Let's see what else we have. I have my daily calendar brief. So every day my agent sends me an email of who I'm meeting with. This is taking a while because I'm trying to do a Zoom webinar on my crappy internet connection. Sorry, guys. Okay, so here we go. Okay, what's a good example here?
I'd pick that top one there, that dive lead finder one. That one's kind of cool.
This one? This one?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually haven't even seen this one yet.
Actually, it looks like it didn't find anything this time. It doesn't in all of the runs. or it might have just disqualified them all. I don't know.
Okay.
I
So
haven't
let's
actually
look
looked at
at
these today, so I couldn't tell you straight off the bat.
another one here. So explain what this agent actually does.
Yeah, so what this agent does is it basically plugs into RSS feeds of multiple newsletters, and will identify companies that are called out in those newsletters and identify people who are mentioned in those newsletters as potential prospects. So that it lets us reach out to them and say, hey, I saw you featured in an XYZ newsletter talking about whatever topic. If it's something that we qualify. So that's why some of them didn't have anything. It's because we disqualify the ones that are not relevant to us.
Man,
But for the ones that
yeah.
are relevant, we'll sort of go through this whole prospecting flow. So it's a fully automated prospecting flow, but it's not spray and pray because there's so much disqualification that's happening along the pipeline. Think of it more as like a micro campaign that's just put on autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah, the best, and this is kind of, maybe this is kind of the other point that we found to be true with everybody, which is that I think everybody kind of think about AI as this like volume game, right? Everybody, which is fine. Like everybody, when people think about AI, they think about AI SDRs, right? Spray and pray, send more volume, whatever. But what we found working with a lot of customers is that actually the best companies are doing the opposite, right? So they're using AI to be more targeted. They're using AI to do kind of a lot of these tedious research work, a lot of these tedious prioritization work that was just impossible to do before. Like this is a good example where, right? So like if you're going after like the HR space, right? There's a ton of these like, HR, whatever, mailing lists that talks about needs customers have all the time, right? But before, if you would have a person do it, it would be impossible. It'd be way too much work to have a person manually monitor all his mailing lists, right? So now we have our AI do it, right? So you just give them the feed for the news.
Man,
And then, so every day we get an email, right? Here's some qualified leads based on these articles. And here's the email you can send based on this qualified lead. And we even enrich the email. We can enrich the phone number if we want. And it summarized the RSS feed for us. So that's like a great example of, this is just something that, this is actually what a true AI native process look like, which is you think about what kind of process you could do that was just impossible with a human before, right? So it's not about like ramping up a ton of volume with previous human processes, because I think everybody here knows that volume doesn't work in sales anymore, right? It's actually about what are some stuff that were just literally impossible to do before with a human that you can now do with AI. So that's kind of the right way to think about it. So
yeah. And
I see a
like
lot of, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna double down, right? Having been in enterprise sales for a long time, like spending hours and hours and hours looking for those golden nuggets, right? Like of relevance to then make my prospecting feel more organic or event based and natural, as opposed to I put a segment of leads in a bucket, right? And I just like, yeah, send the outreach campaign. Man, like how much time does this save you, right? Just having an agent go find those golden nuggets, looking at the entire like internet, right, of information for you. And then what would you then do with that time? This is an easy win for I think every seller, right?
Yeah. So I see a bunch of questions in chat. So I'll finish up really soon so we can answer those questions. But here's the agent that we were building before, right? So we just remixed the account prioritizer. We added our list of closed won accounts. So now I can run the agent. You can kind of see, the description changed, right? And we could be a little bit nerdy here, kind of dive in here to see what actually changed. So you can kind of see the inputs now have this closed won account knowledge base. And I could basically select, right, my Aomni closed won account here. I can't do that yet because I haven't actually trained that knowledge base yet. It's empty, so that's why I couldn't select it. But what I would do is I would train that knowledge base first, and now I have this list of closed won accounts in the knowledge base, which then I can just enter, right, select for this input. And then of course for the actual, solution, we're selling Aomni here for the actual solution. So, and then, you can kind of see how I was reading this code earlier, right? So what it did is, all these code is still same as before, right? It's going to get your firmographic data. It's going to get your research, so doing deep research on company news, extracting the insights, right? So it's doing all these kind of, it's coding out all these workflows for you. And then you can kind of see how towards the end, we have our scoring instructions of how it's actually scoring. So the AI is actually writing its own prompt, right? So we're based on your prompt, our AI is writing prompt for another AI essentially. So it's kind of doing this sort of like multi-prompt. So our AI is actually writing prompt for this scoring AI, right? And you can see it actually added this prompt, right? Use the close one account knowledge base as example of successful customers. If you find strong similarity, industry, company size, use case, blah, 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 prioritize this account higher, right? So just based on that one simple remix, right? Now it completely rewrote its own code. It rewrote its own prompt, right? And now you get this new account prioritization agent. Hopefully would, fit your use case a little bit more. Of course, you could, even change this even more, right? So because it's so easy to write your own agent, we actually want you to just iterate like 5 or 10 times, right? So if, run this, if you're not happy with it, tell it to be more specific, right? Maybe you don't care about, company size or industry as a similarity. So just tell it to remove that, right? Maybe you want to add some other way of prioritizing, of scoring. So just tell the AI to add that to its own agent, and it will just rewrite its own code to add the stuff. So the TLDR is, it's all about how creative you are and how much understanding you have about your ICP. So you can actually really just encode that into the agent. So anyways, I see a lot of new chats. And any interesting questions?
Yeah, there was an interesting one from Lee about CRM. Do you have to download data pull from CRM and upload it into your platform, or can it be done in real time, analyzing all records in CRM that have XYZ attributes?
You can really do both. I mean, our agent could have access to the CRM when it runs itself, right? So maybe this is another one, right? So we could literally remix this again. So we could say like remix this again, pull data about the account from CRM when prioritizing. Let's say if I talk to them before, rank it higher, right? And now it's just gonna go for it again. So this is kind of a lot of the stuff you could do with our platform.
Nice. Yeah, kind
Another
of good use
question
case
from
there. Oh, go ahead, sir.
yeah, I was just going to say another question from Lee around kind of having the knowledge base update in real time. Does it need manual push pull? At the moment, it's manual, but having some sort of API or like just new thing gets added to CRM, then update the knowledge base dynamically would be really cool. So hopefully in the future.
Yeah. We do want to be a little bit careful with the knowledge base, right? Because the knowledge base actually is something you really want to tune and you want to get perfect. Like that, that's probably the only place we actually need to do a little bit of prompt engineering in our system is just getting the knowledge base right, right? And it's always a balance between having the right knowledge but not too much, right? Because our models are still not good enough where you can just feed it everything, because if you feed it too much context, it'll actually get confused. So this is actually why we make it really really configurable, so you could just tune that to be as good as possible. Yeah, I mean, I think in the future it kind of makes sense to make it like a little bit more real time, but honestly, like that's I think for now you actually get better performance if you keep it static, right? But just like spend a lot of your time retuning like each individual piece of knowledge to make it like absolutely correct, and manually check each individual piece of knowledge to make sure it's absolutely correct. There's zero hallucination, right? Because if your knowledge base has no hallucination, then that means the output will have no hallucinations, more or less. And we're probably out of Slack integration soon. So I mean, our goal is actually to have the agent work in the same platforms that people work in, right? So it could be over Slack, it could be over email, whatever it is. You should go talk to it like over these platforms. Right now, you can't. Like right now, we're not there yet, but yeah, that's the goal.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? Or anybody have anyone has any AI agent use cases you want to talk about? While we're all here, we can help you brainstorm some interesting use cases.
The power of crowdsourcing.
I have an idea. If nobody else does, I'll just say mine slowly so that if somebody submits theirs, we can go with theirs. But I think a one that we often hear that folks are interested in is using lookalikes and doing something with lookalikes. So maybe we can incorporate some of what we've done here. I don't know. We could say we have some new leads, find some lookalikes to the leads, research them, qualify them, find a decision maker, something like that.
Yeah,
It's a
actually
pretty
the
good
inbound,
prospecting work.
yeah, so that's a good workflow, right? So uh right, we have this existing lookalike one that just does lookalikes, and we also have this inbound lead qualifier, right? That,
Yeah.
essentially do some research on inbound leads. But what's cool about, kind of goes back to like what's cool about agents are now you could do stuff that was just impossible for a human before, right? So what does that look like? Like in the context of inbound, what does that look like? Uh, what that looks like is, instead of just doing like your simple qualification, which is kind of what everybody else does today, right? You don't need an AI agent to just do some simple inbound qualification. You could go way further, right? So you could do stuff like, let's remix this. So like, let's say for every inbound lead, find 3 recommended contacts and write email outreach.
Ooh, wow.
Also,
Outbounding and
find,
inbound? That's crazy.
yeah, outbound, inbound and outbound, right? Also find 3 lookalikes and recommend contacts in the lookalike as well and write email outreach, right?
Ooh.
But there's one more thing we should do, which is check that we haven't engaged with the company in our CRM first before writing outreach. Right, that's kind of, you should probably best practice, right? So you don't end up like sending like some random outreach to existing customer, right? So now that's like a nice good, nice remix. So now you have this like really complicated process, right? That you probably need to do, this is like what, like 20, 30 minutes of work for someone to do manually. So nobody actually ever bothered to go into this much detail in every single one of their inbound leads. Although there's so
No.
much opportunity setting your inbound lead, right? But now you could just have the AI agent do this for you. So this is kind of another good example, right? Like this is just something that would just like literally
Yeah.
impossible to do. Pre-AI, this is
Oh
just
man.
impossible to do.
Let's
So
let's be real, guys. Like if we have inbound leads, right? Especially if they're higher volume, we typically just pick up the phone and rely on our discovery, right? Questioning and abilities. Like to actually inform, yeah, who I'm speaking to, what are their similar competitors that they're working with? Like as a means of preparation, right? Just coming super prepared to those inbound calls is the best way to convert them at a higher ASP versus just showing up. So there's no excuse not to do this type of preparation moving forward. Yeah, what are those, Derek, right? Yeah. We'll get a couple maybe after this, after all your comments in this webinar, perhaps.
yeah, have the AI agent do some marketing, right? Write some SEO content for you, right? Write some social content for you.
Mhm.
So everybody, I feel like everyone should have like the nice steady stream. There's no excuse these days to not have a nice steady stream in inbound, especially given how easy it is to vibe market. So that's kind of our maybe that's the other hot take.
Yep. Um, guys, hopefully this is informative. Any other questions, thoughts, ideas you have, throw them into chat. I also put my calendar link in there. So for anyone who prefers to discuss kind of their own unique business and peculiarities and ideas for agents, we're more than happy to do a disco with you all. And yeah, hopefully one of the things that came across to me today was that agent building isn't necessarily a button press. It's not necessarily a shared prompt. It's not necessarily an easy endeavor. It's a collaborative one that requires like some input and some thoughtfulness up front to get to the outputs that you want. So beware, right, of vendors that may be making grandiose claims as to the ease of this stuff. It's a new technology, and we're all learning it together as we go.
Yeah. And the difficult part actually isn't the building itself, right? At least if you use Omni, the difficult part isn't the actual building itself, right? The difficult part is that your agent is only going to be as good as how well you understand your business, right? So the difficult part is actually how do you encode your own understanding into the agent? And that's something that, requires a lot of sort of discovery and thinking and like knowledge management. And that's something that
Yep.
we're more than happy to work with everyone on.
Yep. And also identifying internally, right? Who has subject matter expertise? Who has institutional knowledge about what's working, what's not, before you start thinking about automating workflows with agents, right? Build your tiger team of internal knowledge and yeah, work with those who are already working well. Awesome, guys. We'll stay on for a few minutes in case anyone else wants to chat or has any other last questions. But yeah, that's it for the show today. We'll do at least one of these a month moving forward. So keep your eyes out for future ones where we can focus on different agents, given your ideas that you've given us today. We'll also share a recording, of course, after the call. So you guys all have this if you need it. And yeah, thanks again for your time. Appreciate it. If that's it, feel free to take off and get back to work. Otherwise, well, we'll stay on for a few. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Sawyer, what were those birds, by the way? Have we identified the bird source?
Yeah. Yeah, cardinals. There's a cardinal just hopping around near my little table here. Good old Johns Hopkins University Hospital, I guess. Yeah,
Maybe we can turn him into a carrier pigeon, since the emails don't work.
I know. That would get replies, honestly. If a bird showed up at my window, I'd reply 100%.
David, did you go to high school with an Andrew Selberg?
No, but you,
Okay.
you know there are so many David Zangs out there. So fun fact, Zhang is David is the most popular name in the US, and Zhang is the most popular name in China. So I have the combination of two of the most popular names, and there are actually more people named Zhang than there are the entire population in Germany. So there are more people with my last name than there are Germans. Just FYI.
Do you know Joe Smith too? That's hilarious. We should yeah, do an agent to research how many David Zhangs really are out there.
It's a lot. I'm not even on the first page of Google.
More than the population
I
of
tried.
Germany. Jeez.
Yeah.
Well, even more impressive, you've been able to differentiate yourself from the rest there.
Yeah. I still need to be on the first page. There's like some random David Zhang, like that went to Harvard, like working as like a neurosurgeon somewhere. He's my arch enemy. He's the guy on the first page.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome, guys. Yeah, hit us up, email us if you want to talk more about agent building. This stuff is all nouveau, we know, but can be fun, right? Think about solving the biggest business problems we have with this new technology at our disposal. So let's have fun with it. Let's keep building, y'all. Keep vibe coding, keep vibe marketing, vibe selling. Just keep the vibes good as yeah, we all endeavor down this path together. All right, Rue, I think we can close it down if there's no more questions.